They know full well who the enemy is. So do the intelligence and law enforcement officers who spend countless hours disrupting plots and protecting all Americans, including politicians who tweet and appear on cable news shows.
And that was President Obama earlier today briefing the media on the latest developments in the Orlando massacre. The president also took time to address his Republican pundits and presumptive GOP presidential nominee Donald Trump, who have called him out for not using the phrase radical Islamic terrorism. For much more on this, we are pleased to be joined by Newsmax TV political analyst and presidential strategist, and as well as author of the book. This is a new one, Dick. Armageddon, right? How Trump can beat Hillary. There you see it right there. Looks good. Dick, earlier today, Donald Trump, who is celebrating his 70th birthday today, hard to believe, was questioned by reporters about the president's comments, and he emailed back this response saying the president claims to know our enemy, and yet he continues to prioritize our enemy over our allies, and for that matter, the American people. When I am president, it will always be America first. Dick, is Mr. Trump right about President Obama having his priorities on the wrong side when it comes to this fight on terror?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not that Obama is anti-American. It's that everything else comes first. Should we arrest this guy after 3 times we met with him, and there are certainly connections with radical Islam, and he's going to this mosque where they say you should kill homosexuals? Well, we don't really have the proof, and we have to protect his civil liberties, and, you know, we could get in trouble for doing it, so no. Should we pick up this army psychiatrist who tweets back and forth about how he believes in the jihad and works at Fort Hood? Nah, no, we don't want to make that mistake. And everything comes before fighting terror. And a climate has descended on the law enforcement community that if you identify someone as a terrorist and you take action against him, you could be in big trouble. And you can never prove you're right. Because once the guy's in jail, he's not going to blow anything up.
Well, let's hear what Fernando, from Liberty Hill, Texas, has to say. He joins the conversation. Fernando, thanks for joining us here on Newsmax Prime.
Hey, Fernando, how are you doing?
Yes, Mr. Morris, Miranda, I appreciate your call. Listen,
thank you.
I joined the Army in 1980. I went to war only to take out Islamic terrorists because they were holding our Americans hostage in Iran.
Fernando,
well, thank you for your service, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate your comment.
I mean, I think that the veterans who put everything on the line really deserve to have an administration that puts everything on the line, too.
I also want to discuss something else with you, Dick. There's a new report. It's on our home page of our parent website, Newsmax.com. So we're going to derail just a little bit, but still talking about politics. It details how the Russians successfully hacked the Democratic National Committee's computer network. This is pretty much a big deal, including its entire database that has all this research about Donald Trump. Now, the hackers were traced back to the Russian government. Dick, we have heard how much, you've heard this time and time again, that Putin really likes Donald Trump and wants him to win. And we also know that Mr. Trump, in so many ways, has kind of praised Putin. Should we be concerned, in your opinion, about Russia getting involved in U.S. politics?
No, I think we should be concerned with the Democratic Party being so ridiculously neglectful of security that they allow intimate files and communications to be hacked. And while we're at it, their candidate, too. There has been a report, Miranda, all week that Julian Assange, the head of WikiLeaks, who's currently hiding out, I think, in Ecuador, has said that he is going to release 20,000 of Hillary Clinton's emails that have been hacked by the Russians. Now, if that happens, if there actually is a release of Hillary's emails obtained by hacking in public, her candidacy has to be over.
Yeah, that seems like it would be the nail on the coffin right there, wouldn't it?
It's like mailing our secrets to the Russians.
Right. Let's hear what David from Uniontown, Pennsylvania has to say about this conversation. David, thank you for joining us here on Newsmax Prime. What's your question or comment?
Hey, David.
My only comment is that a lot of the stuff that's going on, I think, is going to escalate. Rudolph did a program last year about the Clarion Project, Hancock, New York. He showed a video where they were training these people, and then they showed a list of camps across the country. Then, like on the 700 Club, they put out the book called Islam, Religion, Peace, War. Then I got the book, The Complete Infidel's Guide to ISIS.
So you're saying that you think terrorism is on the rise, is what you're saying, that we're going in the wrong direction, correct?
Oh, yeah, very much so, because these people, I mean, what happened in Paris is an indication it's just going to happen here. Here's the thing. A few years ago, and I have the video I taped, it was called Obsession. It showed what they planned on doing. And I really believe that when the time comes, and these imams and these other people, they keep talking about, mentioning their names, says, you're going to see like what they did in Vietnam at the Tet Offensive. You're going to see
and that's a valid concern that a lot of people share, David, don't you think, Dick Morris? I mean, I would think security is definitely going to be at the forefront of this campaign.
Well, I think it's certainly worth noting that in the 7.5 years after 9/11, under the regime of George W. Bush, after 9/11, there was not another terrorist attack on American soil. But in the 8 years of Barack Obama, 7.5 years so far, there have been 45 incidents on American soil, costing hundreds of lives. And the difference here is not in particular a policy like waterboarding or not, or NSA eavesdropping or not, although I'm sure that contributes. It is the atmosphere of intimidation of our law enforcement personnel, that you have to be politically correct in fighting what is, after all, an ethnically based crime. And you can't use ethnic profiling to fight an ethnically based crime. A good example of that is that one of the big reasons terror plots in New York City were foiled is that under Ray Kelly and Rudy Giuliani and Bloomberg, they patrolled mosques, surveilled mosques that were hotbeds of terrorism. Now they're not allowed to. And when there were 3 reports that this mosque in Orlando was spewing out death to homosexuals,
You mean the one in Fort Pierce, the one where the shooter was attending?
Yes, in Orlando.
Actually, it was in Fort Pierce, the one he was attending. But the shooting was in Orlando. I just want to be specific.
But it was not surveilled. There was no a special effort to infiltrate it. And unless we are flexible enough to adopt tactics that realize where these attacks are coming from and to investigate them before they happen, they're just going to go rampant, and your caller is absolutely right.
Right, but I hear what you're saying. We're talking about security, and you bring up some very valid points talking about Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration, but I want to get your take. This is why it's really important that I get your take on this latest Bloomberg political poll. This poll was conducted from June 10th through the 13th, and it shows, and this kind of shocked us over here at Newsmax, it shows us that Hillary Clinton is now leading by 12 points, 49%, you see it there on your screen, to 37%. Do you expect that to change at all? Because this is usually and has been Donald Trump's strength. 45 seconds for your response.
I'm sorry, was that on?
Do you expect this to change at all? Do you expect those numbers to change?
Miranda, was the question about the head-to-head or about terrorism?
Head-to-head.
Okay. Yeah, of course I expect it to change. There was a hoopla and a focus when Hillary won the nomination. And that, of course, causes people to rally to her side, just like Trump had a 10-point bounce when he was declared the nominee. The fact of the matter is, right now, this race is probably with a narrow 4 or 5 point lead for Hillary. And Trump has to close that, and I think he may well. And I think terrorist attacks like this focus people's priorities on his tough leadership versus Hillary's diplomatic straitjacket that she would impose on our security forces.
Well, we'll definitely see what happens, and especially when it comes to those emails. Dick Morris, always a pleasure to have you on. Have a great evening. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night for another edition of Newsmax Prime. Good night.